Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure you're shocked I'm saying gentlemen today. Yeah, I'm kind like that. So, yes, welcome to yet another exciting episode of your favorite female centric program, Up You with EZINNE, where we bring you insightful conversations on empowering women and recalibrating their goals and their roles in society. How are you all doing? My favorite question. How are you all doing? It's a beautiful day out here in Lagos, Nigeria. I hope it's the same for you wherever you are. Our topic today is Woman Recalibrate. Woman Recalibrate. Is Up You with EZINNE, and I'm here to keep you company wherever you may be. So let's do this, my beautiful people. Finding self, finding purpose. My name is EZINNE Kufrekanem, and I'm your host. As always, I'm thrilled to have you join us on today's episode. It's still recalibration season in here, and the topic today is Woman Recalibrate. Recalibration implies taking a step back to evaluate our current circumstances and making adjustments to reach our full potential as women. It means recognizing and challenging societal norms that have held women back and embracing our unique strengths and capabilities. Recalibration puts us on a path towards equality and empowerment. It's essential for women to realize their worth and make necessary changes to create a more inclusive society. Our guest today is a woman who has been on a constant journey of recalibration, and she'll be sharing it all with us today. So please stay with us. Be kind to follow us on all our social media platforms at Up You with EZINNE on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We'd love to connect with you and keep the conversation going long after this live episode has ended. And please like and share the stream. It is one way you help our ministry so that we can continue to serve you better. Remember, it's all about you finding self, finding purpose. The topic today is Woman Recalibrate. May I remind you that all episodes of Up You with EZINNE are on our YouTube and podcast channels at Up You with EZINNE. Be sure to follow us and don't miss a thing. Now it's about time to bring our guest into the studio. If you're just joining up, this is Up You with EZINNE, and the topic on the banner is Woman Recalibrate. Please, as you join in, settle in, settle in. I'll be bringing up our guest in approximately 5 minutes, 11 a.m. on the dot. So please settle in, bring out your notepads and your pen, and get ready to recalibrate. Yes, welcome, welcome. And while we're at it, please share, like the streams, share the stream, like the stream, and share the stream so that we can get more women in here to listen. Remember, faith comes through hearing, and hearing words of wisdom. You will agree with me when you find out who our guest is, that we are going to hear very many wise things today. So come in, welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's now time to bring in our guest for the day. Our guest today is Vice President Chief Dr. Jewel Howard Taylor, a devoted Christian and former First Lady of Liberia, an eminent citizen and the standard bearer of the National Patriotic Party, serving as Vice President and President of the Liberian Senate. She's recognized as a distinguished public servant and a positive role model, fondly known as the Vice President without boundaries. Her multiple degrees in law, economics, gender development, and public administration including honorary PhDs, reflect her unwavering commitment to continuous learning and driving positive change in the world. Dear listeners, everyone, please join me in welcoming a very special guest to the show today. Incidentally, today is also her 61st birthday. So when you join in, please begin by typing Happy Birthday, Your Excellency. Good morning, VP Joel. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, EZINNE. I'm fine. I thank God for this beautiful morning and the new opportunity to tell God thank you for all of what He's been to me over the 61 years. I'm so grateful this morning. I don't even know where to start.
Wow, you look amazing.
Thank you.
And I must really thank you. It's your birthday. You could be anywhere. You could have been anywhere else, but you decided to honor us and be a part of this and do this. So thank you very much.
It's an honor for me, though, really, because the work of mothers, the work of women leaders, the work of role models never end. It's a daily struggle until we get to where we need to be as women across Africa and in the world. And so I'm honored. I want to thank you for extending me this beautiful invitation this morning.
Thank you very much. You're very kind. If you're just joining us, this is Up You with EZINNE, and the topic on the burner is Woman Recalibrate. Your Excellency, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Great. So let's dive right into the topic for today. Woman Recalibrate is a phrase that holds so much power and potential. Can you please shed some light on what recalibration means concerning women?
Recalibration for me as a leader, as a role model, means stopping, taking a look at where you are, taking stock of all of the things that have happened, asking God to show you the right path, and then formulating that path into plans and programs. Because we must remember that whatever we do, each of us have been brought to the earth for a particular reason. If you have determined what your reason is why you are on earth, because it's not just to live and have children and die, it's to make an impact. And impact is at different levels. Everyone is not at the same level, but everyone has to make an impact where you are. So recalibration means stopping, doing an assessment of where you are, asking God, this is where I am today. How do I go forward? What do I do next? And then putting in place your plans and your programs for the next leg of your journey, because we all live in stages. And whatever the next stage is, how do you now move forward to ensure that the impact that God has brought you to make is continuous? I think that's what recalibration means for me.
Whoa, whoa. You've said so many things in just a short spot. Um, it's taking stock. Recalibration is taking stock of where you're coming from to where you are at and projecting to where you want to go to. I like that. And I particularly like the fact that you talked about life being in stages and that we all make impact at different stages of our lives. So it doesn't matter that we are not all vice presidents, irrespective of where we are at, we should recalibrate and be able to make impact. Thank you so much. Then I'm just going to jump ahead and say to you, what does it feel like and what does it take to be vice president? A female vice president of a whole country. Oh my God. I'm sure our listeners want to know as well.
The fact of the matter is that it's just one position. And I don't want to tie everything into being that one position. I want to make my explanation of your question a little bit more broader. How do we as women leaders, wherever we find ourselves, step up and be the best that we can be? When I began my journey more than 25 years ago, I became First Lady at 33 years old. I'd had no idea of what my destiny would be. I had no idea, even 5 years ahead. I just knew that I had come to a particular stage and that I had to ask God what I was supposed to be doing. I came into a place where Liberia was in a civil war. Remember, we had all these years of civil crisis amongst ourselves. So as a first lady, I couldn't have tea, call my friends and drink wine and do pet projects. I had to get involved in issues of displaced camps. What was happening to women? What was happening to young girls? How could I make a difference in their lives? And so at that young age, I got involved in making sure that the position I held counted. I could have stayed home in the safety of my home, but I realized that it would have been the wrong thing to do. And so I went out to the displaced camps across the length and breadth of my country. And I got a chance to see the sufferings of women. Little did I know that God was using that platform to draw me closer to the work I've been doing for the past 20 years. And so my mother told me when I was very young, whatever your hands find to do it to the best of your ability. And that has been my mantra. And so because I utilized the stage that God had given me to make sure I impacted the lives of those who were in displaced camps across our country, whether it was taking critical women to the hospital, going to visit those who had babies that didn't have blankets or food, or whether it's about taking food to the displaced camps to make sure people had food and water. All of those things provided me a platform. And I believe if I had mismanaged that platform, God would have just left me there, because then I would have not taken advantage of the opportunities he wanted to see what was inside of me. So to be the best at what you do, you must make yourself available in whatever situation you're in. Once you make yourself available, you must now tune your heart into the work that lies ahead. It has to come from inside, EZINNE. It's not something you can only talk about. And there are a lot of people who just talk about issues, but there are people that are in the gutters making a difference in the lives of people. And then you must be prepared. When I got elected the first time after I left the office of the the first lady, and I got elected as senator, I didn't have a law degree. And I found myself in the legislature. And the first day I sat at my desk, I was like, so what do I do here? It was the first time Ellen Sirleaf had gotten elected as the first female president for Africa. All of the looks, the attention focused now on Liberia. So I knew that I could not have been a senator and just be quiet. And so I went back to school. I got my law degree while I was at the legislature. I took 3 years while I was studying part-time to understand the laws of my country, because I wanted to make an impact. How would I make an impact if I didn't know the laws, the rules, the environment we found ourselves? Fortunately for me, Madam Sirleaf came to the table to turn things around. And so her work was to rebuild the shattered framework of our country. So there were new laws that were needed. Things we had never thought before had to be done. And I had to be ready. And so the 3 years I spent in law school while I worked as a lawmaker brought me to the realization of what a lawmaker was supposed to be. In that situation, I had to get prepared. And then I became an activist, advocating for women's rights, advocating for the new laws we needed. For example, we never had the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission in Liberia. It was non-existent. It was in our constitution, but no government had picked up the wherewithal to say, let's get this done. Then I got on the Judiciary Committee because I knew that the Judiciary Committee was the committee that would frame all of these laws. I learned how to craft laws. I learned how to defend the laws. We did the Code of Conduct for the first time in our history. And so by going to law school, I became prepared. I also found myself on the Budget Committee. I needed a degree in finance because I have a degree in economics, but I didn't understand the financial issues well. I went back and I got an MBA in finance. And so to be the best at what you want to be, you have to take advantage of the platform. You need to understand where you are and have in your heart what it is that you want to do, what impact you want to make. Then you have to be prepared. And once you are prepared, you must now be an advocate, a loud one, not doing so say one, so say all. You know, in some legislatures, when the big boys are finished talking and the vote counts, the women will just put their hands up and say, okay, we're voting this way. You hardly hear their voices raised on the important issues concerning women. So I became an advocate for the things that were important for women and girls. And by being an advocate, I started having opportunities now to speak across the continent, not just here at home. And so if you want to be the best and the brightest, those are the steps. You can't just jump into something. You must know that in every situation, there will be challenges. So you must be committed. You must be resilient, regardless of what comes your way. Because you know things will never go straight. Our lives are in B lines, Z lines, C lines. You know, everything is not just a straight road. And so you must be prepared to stand your ground. If you believe it, if in your heart you can conceive it, and if you want to be a change maker, then you must remain resilient and committed to the end.
Whoa. I feel like clapping at this point. You know, as we were talking, I was just saying, and the hunger is still there. The hunger is still there, meaning there is still more that you have to give and more we need to draw out of you. I must really thank your mom for teaching you at a very young age that you need to be what? Prepared for what you want. People on the stream, women, all she said are actually things we need to do, or the process of recalibration as an ongoing thing. Recalibration is not a one-off. You don't recalibrate today and then stop. It's an ongoing process. You must identify what you want. She says, be available. You must be available. You know, identify what you want, be available to it. And then you must be authentic. It must come from the inside. That really hit me. So it's not about theory, it's about you putting your heart to what you want. And then you must rise through the rungs, do the stages, do different things, but keep your heart at where you're going to. And
That's it.
I really must thank you for expanding that question, because by the answer you gave, ma'am, my question was actually quite kind of narrow, because I was not asking you how did you get here without looking at the processes and all the other things that you had to do. You kept hungry, you kept learning. Thank you very, very much. So
You're welcome.
now you you just virtually told us what propelled you into governance. Could you please tell us, you know, by way of setting the stage, how you added value beyond um, the I think it's the commission that you mentioned when you were talking, that it was in your law, but you hadn't, it wasn't being used, and then your knowledge of law made you bring that to the fore. What other values did you add to the nation of Liberia in your time as the vice president?
And what has continued to move me from one stage to the other is a passion. I forgot to talk about that. There has to be a passion. When you're doing something that you're passionate about,
Mm-hmm.
then you're never working, because it comes from inside, like you said.
Oh, wow.
It flows from the inside. And you keep doing it and you keep doing it and you keep doing it. Because I grew from the ranks, I've come from First Lady. I was elected twice as senator for the third largest constituency in my county. And then I became the first female vice president of my country and the first female president of the Liberian Senate. What propelled me was my passion to make a difference in the lives of people by our laws, by our interventions, by providing opportunities for young girls. And the work I started as senator was making sure that it was not just talking. I created an NGO called the Jewel Starfish Foundation. And that foundation in 2025, by the grace of God, will be 25 years old. So I've worked with girls from 7th to college. Thousands of girls have gone through this process. Why I started at the 7th grade is that, and it's I think JSS1 in Nigeria. JSS1 is 7th grade on our side. And from kindergarten to 6th grade, most girls are okay because they're still babies. By the time they get to 7th grade, they have their period, they have their breasts, they are now growing, and then the enemy strikes. People are abused. Children are, sometimes you're not allowed to go to school because your parents don't have the money. And they say, well, stay home so that your brothers can go to school. People are put into marriages at early ages. And all of this sexual and gender-based violence that attends to women start at, 12 years old, when most times people will find themselves in the 7th grade, and it continues. And so this foundation was an expression of the work that I needed to do. So one hand is advocating, the other hand is, hey, how do we change this situation? And so I've used the foundation while I was senator. I did a lot of speaking engagements. I provided sexual and gender-based education. I taught girls how to say no, because no one should abuse you. If there is an issue, scream and holler so that it stops. You can't bear it. And most mothers will say, forget it. This is what is happening to girls. This is a normal thing. It happened to me. No, it's not a normal thing. Girls should be protected. They should be given the opportunities to become what they also want to be. Because mind you, we are made out of 50% of the population. And any nation that keeps taking advantage of 50% of its population, then you're already failing. And so I decided that I would put my feet to the fire and actually provide important issues. Scholarship opportunities. Right now, the NGO has about 3,000 girls on scholarship across Liberia. We've extended to Ghana. We've extended to Malawi. We've extended to Sierra Leone. So little by little, I'm trying to become a West African NGO because I think the work that we do is important. Another issue, keeping girls out of school. And this was something that I did as vice president. Sanitary pads. Something as simple as sanitary pads. When you go outside of the urban cities, you will find out that girls do not have sanitary pads. They are using paper, they are using cloth, they are using all kinds of things. And so instead of going to school and getting your dress messed up, when they have their period, they just stay home. So every month, girls lose between 5 and 7 days of school. You can imagine, it could be your exam period. Of course, you will fail. It could be a time when you're taking some tests. It could be a time when there is a review. So just a simple thing as sanitary pad is keeping girls from going to school. So as vice president, I took on that responsibility and began to share sanitary pads with the help of UNFPA and other agencies of the international community to provide sanitary pads. But my voice as an advocate for healthcare, for education, for sexual and gender-based violence, and being a mentor to young girls was expanded as vice president. Because as senator, I was stuck in one county, even though they used to call me the senator without boundaries, because whenever I got a call, I would just go and visit because I thought I was one of the few women in the legislature that had a voice, a conviction that what I was doing was right. So I got all these invitations from all over the place. And maybe that's why it was easy to become vice president, because when you're going to elections, you're talking about numbers. My name became a common noun across the country in all of the homes. And so as vice president, it allowed me now to expand my work. So as vice president, I did the sexual and gender-based violence. I built a training school free for girls to learn ICT and digital learning. I also ensured that the sanitary pad issue and the scholarship issue now expanded across the country. And as vice president, I expanded that scholarship program now to some of the counties on the continent. So these were the items that I was very passionate about. In addition to the fact that I sat as president of the Liberian Senate, I was presiding officer over the information coming from the executive branch on laws and different things that the president wanted to pass. So it's been a really, really, really full plate, but I never lost my passion for women's education, my passion for being an advocate for women's rights, and that falls right center into the heart of who I am. When I grew up, I was lucky. My parents had 7 daughters and 1 boy. And then my father said, if I would send this 1 boy to school and leave my daughters out, where would they be? So he put the same energy that he put into getting his son to school to ensure that we got the quality education that we need. So I'm an example of what any girl can be, because I don't come from a rich family. My parents were very poor. In fact, they were healthcare professionals. My mother was an OBGYN nurse. My father was an anesthesiologist. And so, you know, we grew up in a small home, poverty stricken, but his content was education, education. Again, in preparing us, he said, if you go to school and you learn to the best of your ability, the sky will just be the beginning of what you can achieve. Unfortunately, he didn't live long enough to see me become senator or to see me become vice president. But he prepared me and my siblings for the roles that we've played throughout our lives. And so it's important when you look at levels, the structures are the same. What do you do if you want to be the best PR person? What do you do if you want to be the best IT person? I met a lady the other day. I was at the African Women's Leadership Year-End Program in Lagos, and she introduces herself as Madam Carpenter. And so when she introduced her young lady, she's a carpenter, very brilliant carpenter, doing all kinds of amazing things. So she says, you know, I'm happy to meet you, Madam Vice President. I am Madam Carpenter. So I was like, what do you mean? She says, I'm a carpenter. So for her, how many times will you find a female that's a carpenter and she's enjoying her work? It's her passion. So all of the things that we're talking about are things that everyone can do, because you realize that when you get to a certain level across Africa, women are stopped from breaking class ceilings. Ellen Sirleaf became the first female president of Africa before we got Joyce Banda and the others who've come on board. Catherine Samba Panza from the Central African Republic. Just few women. Now we're going back to an all-male situation because you have only one female president now from Tanzania and then the one from Ethiopia. But you can imagine 54 countries and you have only 2 women presidents. We do have work to do. We're losing space in the legislature where it counts, because that's where the laws are made. That's where the budget for the nations are made. And we need more women voices in those spaces. So you don't have to be a lawmaker, but I think wherever you are, you can be the best and the brightest that you can be, so that you break barriers in that sphere so girls can know you can be whatever you want to be.
Whoa, what can I say to this? But it's incredibly, incredibly inspiring. What you've just shared is quite inspiring. You know, statistics had shown that gender-based violence, 60% of women in your country face, age between 15 and 49, face and experience physical violence. So all of this that you've done is quite heartwarming. It gives us hope that is being curbed. Yeah, but so let me ask you again. And again, I like that thing. I like what you said about the person who introduced herself to you in Lagos, Nigeria here. We have swag like that. We don't fall hand as Madam Carpenter. That's actually passion at work there. And she would
Yes, it
definitely go
is.
places. Because you remember her. You may not have remembered her name, you know, but you remember her, you know, by the way she introduced herself. So everyone on the stream, you better start crafting a unique way to announce yourself when you get to the right place, you know. So if something brings you to the table, make sure that you're saying your name in such a way that everybody on that table will not
Remembers.
forget you. Will not forget you. So yes, ma'am, it's crucial for women to push past all the limits that you talked about and recognize their potential. So now let's touch on some practical aspects of recalibration. What steps can women take to recalibrate their lives in various domains, like education, like you mentioned, like career, and also personal growth? Can you give us a few practical things that women can do to recalibrate in education, in career, in governance, and maybe even in their family life?
The first thing you must realize is that life changes and there are stages. We don't stay as children more than 12 years. By the time you get to be 13, you're considered a young adult. And so these stages, you must realize that you go from one level to the other. So at every point of a transition, you must stop and say, for example, where am I? What is your dream? What do you dream of being? Because it is said, if in your heart you can believe it, and if in your head you can conceive it, you can be the best at what you want. And so when you're approaching that next phase of your life, whether it's a housewife, whether it's a young lady who's an entrepreneur who's now thinking about family and children, you must now find a way to say, I'm now combining two things. Though I'm a head of a digital company, I want a husband, I want children. How do I balance it? Recalibration also means finding ways to balance the things that you need to do so that you're able to move from one stage to the other. Once you realize that that stage is too small, you know, you get to a point where you feel this is too small for me now. I have to go higher. And now if I have a small store in a place, maybe I need to take my shop to Abuja, or maybe I'm in Lagos in one of the big towns. I need to now expand. My name needs to become bigger. Then it takes a little bit more. You must first acknowledge that you're moving from one stage to the other. Second, divine intervention in your head and set up how. It is the how. How do I get from point A to point B? If I have a small ICT program and I'm running on the internet, but I want to be a national ICT person in the headlines, everybody knows my work. How do you get there? You must now sit and draw up steps. What is good is that all of the professionals around the world, people have gone through these steps before. You can find books, you can talk to others, you can research. If I want to go from step A to step B in this particular career, how do I do it? Fortunately, the digital age has enabled all of us to get information on our fingertips. I tell my grandchildren, I had to go to 3 or 4 libraries when I was at the university to get information, because you have to go and look for the books. And they will tell you after you've looked for 2 hours, oh no, this book isn't here. You have to go and find out at the US Embassy's library because they have more. You've wasted time in a small library. Then they said, no, go further. But the internet is such a platform that provides information. So someone can sit on the net and say, well, I'm here, I want to be this. How do I get there? There are many stories that you'll find that can give you ideas. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel like we did in our generation. So you must now sit and set up your plans. What do you want to achieve? How do you want to achieve it? And what does it take? And I think those are the few steps of recalibration, because once you go through those steps and you put a plan of action in place, that in 30 days, this is what I would like to do. In 6 months, this is where I want to be. You have to write it down. You have to write it down. You have to go over it every couple of days to see, okay, where am I? You must, in your recalibration, be able to assess whether you're on the right path. Sometimes something takes you off target completely. And before you find out, you've left your dream somewhere else and you're somebody completely different. By that time, you are sad, you're not energized, you don't even know what to do, but you step off your course. They must be written down. You must write it down in a book or on your pad. Now you can do notes on your iPad or on your telephone. Every couple of days, you must research it and say, okay, I'm going this way. I'm going the right way. How do I do what I need to do? It's already written down. And once you write it down, you must remain consistent. And this is where the passion comes in. Because if you find something to do that you're not passionate about, in a few months, you get tired and you leave it. You've wasted time, you've wasted energy, you've wasted resources. Don't go do what your friend is doing. That's another thing. People say, oh, let's go into a nail shop. Maybe you don't even like doing nails. But because your friend says, let's open a nail shop, you go and get involved. You've wasted resources. And then you come to realize this is not it. I want to be something else. Then you've wasted time. And life doesn't give you that many opportunities to waste time. So you must write these things down. You must follow it through. And if you make a mistake, go back and say, okay, there's a small misstep here. I need to go back to my dream, to my passion, to my roadmap. That is the roadmap that guides us. Even as a wife, I have a granddaughter who just turned 18, and she says, oh, she wants 4 children, and she wants 2 sets of twins. In her mind, she's already seen herself as married, as I don't want more than 4 children. I want to be an entrepreneur. She's doing culinary arts. That is a section of work that we're not doing too much. We bring foreigners into our country to do it. So I'm hoping that she'll be one of the best chocolate makers across Africa, and she'll be a voice. So she's already deciding, okay, as much as I'm having a passion to be an expert, culinary expert, I also want a family. I also want children. So she now has to map it up. Okay, in the next few years, I will go and finish college. I will do my master's. And then while I'm doing my master's, I'm looking for a husband. You can't wait till you reach 40 years old. So you have to find a way to merge it, but writing it down and following it as often as you can to keep your mind focused is an important part of the recalibration in practical terms. And then when you make a mistake, you go back, then you realize, okay, I should have gone left. Instead, I went straight. How do I get back left? And that is an important part. Writing it down, memorizing it, dreaming it. Because when you see it in your heart and in your soul, then you follow it. That's why the passion thing is very, very, very important. You must find that passion because it will drive you throughout your entire lifetime.
Whoa. I could listen to you all day and just be nodding my head, soaking it in, drinking it in, and marinating on your words. They are so powerful.
Thank you.
Words that even if someone's mindset is whacked, the person would have to work on their mindset and get it to come on the positive lane. Thank you. I especially like that first question you started with, or the first point you made. It's all about how do I go from point A to B? You must realize that you are at point A, and then you now do all of these things that she's talked about to get you to point B. Somehow along the road, you might miss your way, but if you do miss your way, because you've written it down, you can actually retrace yourself back to point B. Incredible. Incredible. Thank you. This is powerful because we can actually visualize what you're saying. And then I'm sure that all the women on the stream can actually attest that they've actually been lost somehow on their path, on their journey to becoming the vision of themselves that they are carrying or they are trying to drive to achieve. So this is really very inspiring and very illuminating. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Now, as we've been talking, it's just been going very smooth and it looks like it's been going and that your life has just been one breeze like that. But I do remember that in the beginning, you mentioned that nothing is ever straight. Life is full of challenges. It keeps coming here and there. And you have actually been playing in a male-dominated sector, a sector that is actually very, very volatile and very, very tense. So as a woman who's been in power almost all her life, what challenges do you constantly face or have you constantly faced, and how did you surmount them? Politics and governance, like I said, is a highly male-dominated area, but you've held your own admirably. Could you please share some learnings with us on how you...
When you're in a male-dominated environment, that means your challenges are even double. Because a lot of them believe that women shouldn't be at that point. And I want to say something that's very important. As mothers, I find out that we're responsible. In my home, for example, as my kids were growing up, my son was always treated different. He would eat and leave his plate at the table. Then I would tell his sister, pick up after your brother. He would go into his room and leave his room messy and would tell the sisters, go and clean your brother's room. Go and make sure your brother's things are packed. Make sure. So in our homes, the sons are our kings. And we treat them with such reverence. That same young man gets to be 30 years old knowing that he's the king. How then do you tell him to open space for a woman? All he's seeing his sisters do is serve, serve, serve. How then do you tell him when he gets to a particular age, you're equal? He hasn't seen it. He hasn't lived it. He doesn't understand it. So by the time they get to become adults, you already have a problem because they're saying, what is she doing here? She should be, like one of the former Nigerian presidents said, in the other room. But
that was my country.
That we were in the other room. We've gone beyond that. So first thing we must do as mothers, and it's important for the younger generation, to begin to train our children to be equal. Because by the time they get to that top, and that's what causes a lot of problems for women when you get there. You shouldn't be there in their minds. You should be in the other room. Or if you're in a sphere, you should be a teacher or a nurse, always in roles of servitude. But women are beyond that. Everybody doesn't want to serve. Some other women want to be a part of the action. But when you get there, is a blockage. And I think there's something we need to talk about as to how we can begin to reframe the minds of mothers to know a boy can wash dishes, a boy should clean up after himself. And then you find out when they get married, their wives are complaining. Well, what is it? I'm not your slave because she's working full time. I don't want to come when I have to clean up after you. So when you take a bath, clean up. If you eat, wash your plate. At least take your plate to the sink and don't leave it on the table. But then that's one issue. Let's put that aside. But that is the basis for the traction that you find when women are trying to rise, because in their minds, we shouldn't be at that level. And so you get to get into politics. When I ran as senator, I had 12 men contesting against one woman. I was that one woman. And I was harassed. I was abused. All of that to make you give up. The things you will hear about yourself, especially in politics, you have to stop and say, hey, are they talking about me? Is it me here? But all they do is to harass you enough to say, no, this is not me. And then you step off the stage and you're unable to fulfill your dreams and aspirations. So they will bully you. They will talk all kinds of sexual things, make you look like a prostitute, all to demean you so that you give up. In politics, if you want to be a politician, your skin has to be very thick. So now when people say negative things about me, it's like water. I say, okay, let them say what they have to say. My life is a testimony by itself. So people have to see me as who I am. And so when you step up into the sphere and you're in a room of men, and the legislature is predominantly male, the strong women are somehow harassed to the point where they fall off the bandwagon. And so we're getting smaller and smaller. But when you step into that room, someone said, and I read the other day, I don't remember where, it says, if you're in the room and they don't give you a chair, bring your own chair to the table.
True.
Because you should be at that table.
Yes.
There's not an opportunity where you step into the room because you're already there. If you're there and they all sit,
then let your presence be felt.
Give you a seat, bring your chair to the table and sit at that table. The second thing is you must have a voice. You cannot get to that high level and say, okay, I'm just listening. And if they ask you, you say, I don't have anything to say, anything you guys say. Then they say, so why are women here? Why are you here? And let me tell you a funny story. I became lawmaker and I was a very quiet person. You know, most girls are, you growing up and your mother say, girls should be seen and not heard. So
not heard, yeah.
Some of us have voices, but you never know until an opportunity occurs. And so I went to work the first day as a senator. And every time I would put my hand up, one of the male senators would say, shut up. What are you doing here anyway? What are women doing in this place? It's not a place for women. And I would sit. Day 1, day 2, day 3. By day 3, I was so frustrated. So I came home and I was crying. I said, God, what am I doing there? It's not a place for women. Can you imagine? As educated as I am, I got to that point to say, well, maybe this is not for women. And then the Holy Spirit said to me, are you joking? If you have a passion and what you believe you should be doing there, you should be doing, stand up and say what you must say. So I went to work the next day, trembling. I sat in my seat in the plenary hall, and they were talking about something. I don't remember what the topic was. And I put my hand up, and he said, same thing. Shut up and sit down. Don't ask me where that voice came from. It was like a snake recoiling. I turned around and to face him. And I don't even know what I said. I spoke until people told me to shut up. Okay, it's enough, Senator Taylor. Let it be. So I said, no, it's not enough. I said, after all, I got elected. I have the 3rd highest votes. I said, you come from a county where you have won with 2,000 votes. How can you stand there and tell me to shut up? Do you know who I represent? Everybody was shocked. And then one of the men said, oh, she can speak. That shocked me. I said, oh, so it's intended for you to just sit. So they say women are at this table, but they can't speak. And that transformed my whole thinking from that day. So I became a voice. No one could tell me what to say. Whenever there was an issue on the floor, I would take days, I would research it. You must, as you speak, you must have all of the knowledge that you need on your fingertips. Because someone would get up and say, what do you know about this? Maybe the person is a engineer in road building. So if we're talking about building roads for our country and the topic of discussion comes up, you have to go and do your homework. Because you're not an engineer, but all you need is simple information. For example, why do we need a road in this community? What is the population? Are we putting roads where you have a small population as opposed to where the population is needed? Are there economic activities that can bring money to government and to improve the lives of the people so that when the road goes to that community, it is improving lives? You know, those simple things. I don't have to know how many kilometers of road that needs to be done, but I need to know why that road is important. So you must now research your issues so that when you stand up to speak, you're speaking to the hearts of others. And then they won't say, oh, the women are just talking, they're making noise. I mean, at one point they would say, the women are noise makers. So I made sure every time I got on the Senate floor, I had my notes. I would read from them. I didn't want to make a mistake. I did my research, and I was able to speak to the issue and sway things the way I wanted. My county is the third largest. We need a road throughout my county. How do you tell me to go and do a road somewhere where they only have 10 people? No. Population drives development. So those were the things that I had to research because I didn't know engineering, but I knew that where I represented in the population that I had under my control, benefits had to come to them because they were in large numbers. So it takes standing up, bringing your own chair if you need to, researching the topics of discussion. If you're talking about digital education, it must be at your fingertips so that when you have 5 minutes to speak, whatever you speak makes an impact, and the men will say, okay, she knows what she's talking about. So you must understand, do your research, write it down. My mother used to say to me when I was young, when you write it down, you can never make a mistake. So when I had to speak, I have my notes. It's not expected that you'll be a genius and you will know all of the numbers. No, if we're talking about healthcare, the healthcare numbers are A, B, C, and D. I will take number A, I will talk about it, I will practice at home and get my debate on target. So if someone would jump up from somewhere and say, okay, Senator Taylor, you're talking about this, what is the information about that? It's on my notes because I've researched every single aspect. And funny thing, women are stronger, we are wiser, we are multitask. The men, if they're watching football, don't even ask them a question. Honey, are you hungry? Oh, I'm watching football. A woman can be watching football, taking care of her children, answering the phone, cooking her food, cleaning her house. So if we put that into what we do, all of those things that God has given us, you can stand anywhere and be the best and the brightest. And that is what I have used, those simple traits. Know what you're talking about. Research your topic. Write it down. And be prepared to defend it. When I went to law school, they would give us these topics. And you could get a negative part saying, for example, healthcare is not important. How do you say healthcare is not important? You have to be on the negative side. You have to go and find reasons to say why healthcare is not important, for example. When the other group will have a topic, oh, healthcare is important for the development of a country, you will be told, go and do the opposite. So you have to look at both sides. Because who knows, someone may ask you a question from the opposite side. So you can't just say, okay, I have a positive thing here. Let me just look at this. Why, when, how? And those answers, if you put it into a small 1 or 2 page document, you can sail through the issues that you have to discuss, because men always think that we are unequal to them. So if a woman gets an opportunity to stand up on that stage, you must be the best and the brightest. You must speak about things that no one wants to hear about, but they are the truth. Because they want to hide things and camouflage some issues. You must be able to say, no, I believe this is right because of A, B, C, and D, and stick to your conversation. No one should drag you and then you say, okay, I changed my mind. Hey, if you do that, you are lost, because then they say, she's not even sure of what she wants to talk about. So you have to be consistent, and whether the barrage of issues are coming at you, This is what my belief is, and this is where I'm standing. You must be committed to stand in that place. And then the respect will come. But it takes growing, it takes developing, so that when you get to a place and you speak, people say, hey, she knows what she's talking about. So you can't sidetrack her and you can't overlook her. That is when the actual equality starts, and they start to look at you in a different light.
Know your onions. Superior argument always, always gets you noticed. Have your facts. Write them down. There's no shame in that. Write them down. Like she said, you don't have to be an expert on the first day on the job. You keep learning, you keep growing, and you must open your mouth and speak. You know, the thing about speaking, the thing about having a voice, I am very, very, very particular and attached to it because, like you, I'm a Christian, and I believe that the Bible tells us that everything was spoken into being by God. And so I take speaking very seriously. Most things that have happened to me or for me in life, I spoke them into existence in the very way I would want them to happen. So I'm even taking away from here that I should speak more. I should speak more. But I'm going to ask you, because this is the crux of the matter here. We've had a show before where we're saying to women, speak up. Women know how to talk. They can talk a dime a dozen. They can talk about fashion, men, money, all sorts. But women do not know how to speak. Speak things into being, law, or speak their opinions, or speak where it matters. So please, could you, Your Excellency, drill a bit further for the benefit of that young lady who is listening to you right now, who wants to change the world or affect the world positively and wants her voice to be heard, because the way they also it is, we kind of feel that it's people our generation and we're not moving over, and the other people are feeling it's people their generation that are not moving over. The young people want to take over, but they're looking for their voice. Where does this young lady begin?
You have to begin with God. And I think that's the spiritual aspect of women.
Somebody please write that down. You have to begin with
you
God.
Have to begin with God. Because and we're talking spiritual aspects now. Because the space that a woman must fill and to be the best at what she wants to be is the spiritual realm. You're taking out of the physical, you're taking out of the ordinary and get pushed into the spiritual. That is when your light will shine. The Bible says, light your candle and put it on top of the mountain that people will see. It's a spiritual lighting, because your heart has to be ready. Your mind has to be ready, so that when you lit your candle and put it on the candlestick, it will shine. So you have to begin with God. There is no other way, because if you do it, people have shortcuts, and life has no shortcuts. You have to begin with asking God, is this what you want me to do? How do I do it? People have dreams. Like you said, you spoke it into being. The world that we're in requires faith. It is faith that helps us walk the route that takes us to the greatness in God. If you don't have that faith, when you sit by yourself, the devil will say, who are you? Where are you coming from? Then you have to know that I am fearfully and wonderfully made. You have to respond to the devil, and that God has put in me the best that you can imagine. I had a meeting with some young children, and God just put that in my spirit. And I said to them, young boys, I said, do you guys know that when God created the heaven and earth, he created man, he created everything in it, and he said what? It was good. Why did God now say, no, there's something missing? Because the woman was the last thing to be made. After everything else was made, God said, woman is missing. If she's not in this equation, this whole story is not correct. Then he put man to sleep. And he took his time Whatever mistakes he may have made when he made man and he's God, he made sure he put it in woman. What did he tell us to be? He says, without
A
you,
helpmate.
the man cannot complete his task. You are a helpmate. Without you, there is no man. So you can imagine what God has put in us. So you have to believe that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. By God's design, we make mistakes. We are human. But if you tie yourself back into that original plan of God for your life, then we're talking serious issues. Because there are millions of people around the world. Why should they be listening to one person? Who are you? That your voice is not an echo, that your voice is a resounding one across the nations of the world? Who are you? Had it not been God who said, okay, I will use this one. So we have to begin with God. We have to now understand how God created us. What are we supposed to do? And then you will find your voice, because in the instructions that God will give as you're praying, as you are reading, as you are writing, that's why writing is important. Because when you dream it, you must write it down. Then you must speak it. There are little girls, you will hear them say, I saw a little video the other day on Instagram, and this little girl was saying she wants to be a culinary artist. And her mother, she's 3. Her mother said, why do you want to be a culinary artist? She said, because that's what God has brought me to do. She said, so you won't change your mind? She said, no, I'm not changing my mind. This is what I'm going to do. She's speaking into life, something that will happen maybe 20 years ahead. She's already speaking that into life, saying, this is what God has brought me to do. I am not changing my mind. I am not being sidetracked. I am not looking at different options. I will plan my life according to what God has set me to be. Because if you make a mistake, then you're outside of the whole equation. And I think those who want to be, when you see people who have become the greatest and you read their stories, you see how they have evolved. Barack Obama became president by one speech he gave at the convention, the Democratic convention. That speech ignited hope in the hearts of both Black and white people. And they started to look at him differently. Say, but who is this young man? What is he saying? How has he gotten so much wisdom and understanding? Who is he? From that point, he spoke himself into being. And who knows, he had been saying it from the time he was a child, that one day he will be senator and then he will be president. It has to be in your subconscious for you to act and work in a way that will get you to that point. But your voice, you must be clear about it. You must be sure about it. You must speak it into being. And then God, he said, I'm not a wicked God. How do your children ask you for bread and you give them snakes? Or do they ask you for a meal and you give them something else? So how do I make you what you want to be? If you ask me and you said, this is what I want, especially if this is what I put into you, then I have to make things, the whole world will come into being so that you accomplish that which you have said. Because when you say it, then you believe it. The Bible says, out of the abundance of a man's heart, he speaks.
The mouth speaketh.
So it's spiritual.
Wow. Wow. Who are you that your voice is not an echo? We must submit all our talents back onto God and allow him to use it for his glory. Thank you. You just preached a message, and I hope it hits someone smack where it needs to be hit. Okay, so I have a question here for you. Someone just wrote in from Lagos, Nigeria, and her name is Nkechi, and Nkechi said, women must first believe in themselves. Self-confidence and self-belief lay the foundation for personal and professional growth. Additionally, education is key. Women must actively pursue education and training opportunities to enhance their knowledge and skills. Seeking mentorship and networking are crucial steps as they allow us to learn from and collaborate with other successful women. Finally, women must advocate for themselves, never hesitating to seize opportunities and actively partake in decision-making processes. So Nkechi is basically agreeing with all that you are saying. Could you please say something? I'm sure she's on the stream listening so that she could also know that I have read out her question to you, ma'am.
And I want to thank Nkechi for being on the point, because you must believe, you must act, you must speak. And each step has planning processes. When you're acting, you are getting prepared. When you're acting, you're assured of what you want to do, and then you must go through the ranks so that you get to a higher level. But you must speak it out. When you speak it, you can do it. Anything you can speak out of your mouth, you can do. And that is what the Spirit of God in us allows us to do. So she is right, that anyone who wants to think about being the best or the greatest of what they can be must now believe it. Because if God has given it to you, then it's inside. You must believe it, and you must say, okay, I will be the best bread maker. You know, there are some people who bake simple things that everybody will buy. There'll be other people doing other things now. They'll be doing the same thing. You have this little shop where everybody will buy the bread from that particular lady because maybe it's the sweetest. She's put her whole life into it. She doesn't let servants fix it. She does it herself because when she sells it, she wants people to come back. So she will do everything in her power to make sure people will say, oh no, this is the best bread on the corner. We have to go and buy from her. That's how people become the best and the brightest. So you believe it, you work it, you pray about it, you prepare, and you must be ready to work. Nothing comes easy. Sometimes people believe the new generation, since they can press a button on Instagram or on Google or on Siri, tell me what's the answer to this question, and Siri will give them an
The
answer.
popcorn thingy, the popcorn effect. You just want it
They
now.
think it's important. It can happen in a minute. No one. It's taking me 61 years to get to where I am today. 61 years. In politics, 25 years. So I didn't just start off and become. It took steps. It took planning. It took disappointments, because you will get disappointed. You would think maybe this step is the quickest, and you realize you've gone back to the bottom of the ladder. I like that snakes and ladder game. I haven't played it for a long time. You know, when you're small, you have the snakes and ladders. You make a mistake, and the ladder will take you all the way back to where you've come from. If you make a mistake, you end up back at the bottom. But don't give up. Keep working it, because that is the only way you can achieve your God-given gift.
Thank you, Nkechi. I hope you got that. Okay, so quickly now, to the men listening, men who have mothers, sisters, wives, daughters, how can they help the women in their lives to be and do more? What advice would you give to them? The he for she.
I want to ask them to see women in the light that God has made us. If you change your perception about what a woman is, then you're able to really expand. But let me tell you something I found out. A man can become president of a country. If he has a problem, guess where he goes? To his mother. Even if he's never gone to school. He knows the wisdom within that mother. Because whatever problem he's having, when he goes home to mama and he explains it, she will give him the solution. So we are solution bearers. Open a space.
Somebody write that work. We are solution bearers.
Solution bearers. That's how God made it. Because when he said, go and be a helpmate, that means you have the solution. You have the answers. You have the prayers. The Bible says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtain favor from the Lord. Marriage brings favor to that. The woman brings the favor. She prays you through. She sees your dreams and the family dreams, and she prays them through. Her children become great, and then they call her blessed. So if you start to think about, and they love their daughters, but they will mistreat their wives. And then when their daughters are getting married, they are crying. I never figured that out. A father will be crying. Oh, my daughter is about to get married. Don't treat her bad. How are you treating the wife? And some of them are good husbands. Some of them are bad. But there are good women and bad women also. But the point is, if you believe that your daughter should be protected and that your mother is the most sacred thing, transfer those beliefs to the woman who's your workmate, who's your co-worker, who's working on you with a project, because we are solution bearers. Oh, and that's the message I want to give to them, that we are solution bearers. Anything that does not include a woman doesn't work. Anything. You know, I like the political sphere, and so I'll talk about that. They will call us women leader. The women leader will go from house to house, from market to market, from person to person. This is our candidate, convincing people to elect them. It is the women that get politicians elected. Yet,
True.
they don't want to find space for women. When you say, let's elect this woman, then they say, no, there's not a place for women. But you have a woman leader who is a powerful woman leader in your constituency. She will work 24/7 until you get elected. So is that woman not equal? And we're talking equality. We're not saying someone should be in front and someone should be behind. Let's work together to create a better world for our children. So men should open up their hearts, and they will be surprised at what we bring to the table if you open your eyes to see. They're now he for she champions. And I'm grateful that I've met some of those who will speak about the issues and say, no, we can't do this without the woman. The woman has to be here. You know, if the woman is not there, the place is never fixed properly, the food is not done, the atmosphere is not an inviting environment. So everything is upside down. Then they say, okay, let's bring the women. But then they want us in the back room. We are out of those back rooms now. We want to be in the boardrooms. We want to be presidents of countries. We want to be vice presidents. We want to be governors of states. We want more women in the national legislatures around the world, because we bring a wealth of knowledge and understanding that will build a better world.
And so shall it be.
Amen.
You know,
so God made it from the beginning.
Yeah. As we're listening to you, as we've been having this conversation, it's become even clearer that beyond national boundaries, the African woman is the same. Whether you're from Liberia, or you're from Nigeria, or you're from Ghana, or you're from Morocco, we are all the same, you know. So please tell us very quickly, what advice would you give to the African young girls and women who aspire to live successful lives?
In order to live a successful life after 61 years, I think I can say to you that God has to be the center of what we do. It's only God that gives us the grace and the knowledge. The Bible says, he who wants understanding and knowledge, ask, and I will give it to you in abundance. The issues of our world can be handled, but we need wisdom. Where do we get wisdom and understanding to transform our world? It's only from God. But the young generation is not interested in God. They're interested in the quick fixes. They're interested in the beauty. They're interested in the normal things of life.
Ephemeral things of life.
Yes, and they're empty things, because when you get to a point now where you say, okay, hey, until we get into a real serious problem before you stop, don't get to that point. Make God a part and parcel of your life at an early age. He said, call upon me, and I will show you great and mighty things that you know not. Only God can do that. And so I want to give them that experience, that but for God, you can't go anywhere. But for God, you can't stand on a platform. But for God, you can't speak. Because what are you speaking? You can speak and be like an empty sounding cymbal, and you're making noise, and it doesn't make any sense. But if God is in the center of what you're doing, and you make a personal relationship with him, in today's world, we are so busy with jobs, busy with our children, busy with this, busy with life. The women have become busier than the men, busy with women meetings. Oh, I have to go to this meeting. I have to go to this church meeting. I have to do this. We are so busy with so many things. But start your day, a few minutes, just putting it in God's hand, commanding your day, speaking what you want, because there are ministering angels all around, just waiting for you to say, today will be a great day. Whenever you say today will be a great day, it's actually a great day. Whenever you say, oh, I don't feel good, today will be a bad day, you've allowed your angels to go and make a day bad day for you, because that's what you've commanded them to do. Be positive. We should stop speaking negativity over our children, negativity over our husbands, negativity over our careers. oh, this is difficult, we can't do it, then you want to make it difficult. But we must be positive in our speaking, because again, it's about spirit and speech. That is how God operates. And so I think I can only say to each of you that God is the most important ingredient in everything we're doing. He's the center point. If you don't find that center point, you're not going anywhere. You'll just go around and around and around, and you'll find yourselves going back and forth like the Israelis in the desert. A 7-day journey took them 40 years. And so if you don't want a 40-year journey, if you want what you want to be done in due time, because there are seasons. At 60 years old, I can't be now deciding, oh, what am I going to build? How am I going to impact my generation? I'm winding down. So over the last 25, 30 years, if I have not impacted my generation, then I've wasted energy. So while you're 18 and 21, that's the point to start running the race that is set before you. But with God, all things are possible.
Thank you. And indeed, the Bible says, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and every other thing will be added unto you. With God is a win-win. There is no loss anywhere. Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, as you mark 61 today, what is your dream for Liberia and for the Liberian women?
My dream is that we'll let God give us the peace that we need. Without peace in a nation, without peace in a home, without peace in a company, without peace amongst colleagues, nothing works. And the devil's work is to bring chaos and crisis so that we keep doing crazy things. So my prayer is that God will give us inner peace so that we can see the greatness of what God has brought for our nation, so that we'll begin to work together across the aisles. We've gotten so fragmented, isn't it? In this election 2023, there are maybe 24, 25 political parties, a country with 5 million people, 25 political parties, each one saying the same thing in different words. So by the time you divide everybody into 25 political parties, everything is watered down. And everyone is trying to overstep someone else and not realizing that if we must build this nation that was the first on the African continent, established by God as a light to Africa, we have to go back to our original mandate. And we can only do that in peace and love. Once we relax and know that I'm not in your space and you can't be in my space, but we are standing together side by side. In every sphere of life, we're standing side by side. Each one bringing his or her strength to create the Liberia that God had intended. And we'll take away all of the envy, the hatred, the backbiting. We curse ourselves when we say nothing can come from Liberia. So you're saying nothing can come out of Liberia. All the negativity has to stop. But it starts from a place of peace and a place of unity. So my prayer as I turn 61 is that there will be unity. There will be peace. And then God will open our eyes to the many, many, many human and natural resources that we have not even begun to scratch the surface of. Then God will open up the heavens and bring the hidden riches of our country that will benefit us. Because it will not be about Joel Taylor who wants all. It will be for Liberians. And once we believe in each other and we know and we trust each other again, that when one person gets an opportunity to stand up there, it's not about them, it's about us. Then we'll begin to build the Liberia that God intended it to be. We are 170, I think we'll be 177 years this year as a nation. Can you imagine? Ghana is just 60-something years old. See how beautiful, how developed. Go to Lagos, go to Abuja, go to Rwanda, go to South Africa. I mean, everywhere is growing. But as the first continent, come to Liberia, and everything is just dull and listless. But it's because we're speaking ill about ourselves. We're speaking ill about our children. We're speaking ill about our communities. We're speaking ill about our homes. And we have to change our mindset that God has given us such great opportunities. Let's go across the aisle and work together so that we can build the Liberia that God wants it to be. So that is my prayer. God will give us peace, He will give us unity, and He will give us a new mindset that will help us to build. You remember in the Bible, the Tower of Babel, when men got together and said, okay, we're going to build and go and see where God is. God had to change their tongues and bring different languages, or else they may have reached where God is, because they were determined to build. God had to confuse them. So my prayer is that God will remove the confusion amongst us and give us that inner peace and love for one another so that we can begin to build where we should be as the first democratic nation across the continent.
I say a big amen to that. And I'm sure
Amen.
everybody else will say amen to that. Inner peace and God's blessings. Happy birthday again.
Thank you.
Now, finally, Your Excellency, a new chapter beckons for you. What is next?
I mean, in the short run, I'm going to go and run my NGO, but I'm looking for opportunities across the continent that I can continue to be impactful in the lives of the next generation. I can continue to advocate for the Africa we want. I can continue to be a building block for our continent. In the long run, I still believe that God still has a future for me here in Liberia. And I hope and pray one day He will give me that unique opportunity to become president of Liberia, so that all of the crazy things I have in my mind as to how we can build and develop can actually come to light. My prayer is that it will come sooner than later, and that I will be strong enough to do the things that we need to do to pull our nation together and to build a beautiful, unified, equal Liberia for all Liberians.
And on that beautiful note, you have just closed this conversation doing exactly what you asked us to do. Speak into existence what you want or what you see for yourself. So, Madam President, in a few years, I will be reminding everyone that we had it first here. So
Amen.
congratulations on a very successful tenure, and congratulations as you celebrate today, and congratulations into your beautiful future. Thank you
Amen.
so much for gracing our show with your wisdom and insight. Your presence
Thank you
added
for the
immense
opportunity.
value to the discussion on Women Recalibrate. We
Amen.
appreciate your time, your knowledge, and dedication to empowering women. Your
Amen.
strengths and determination are truly inspirational. You have my admiration always, you know.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for letting us share in your birthday as well. Yeah, it's
Thank
already
you very
a
much.
good
I'm
year
grateful.
ahead for you. You keep shining and keep
Amen.
impacting. God bless
Amen.
you.
Amen. And God bless you. Keep using your
Amen.
voice to inspire the young people, because they need that inspiration to believe that they can do it.
Amen. Thank you. So, dear phenomenal woman, this is where we conclude today's insightful conversation with Vice President Joel Howard Taylor on Woman Recalibrate. We're inspired by her leadership and commitment to empowering women. So let us carry the torch of recalibration forward, fostering a future where women thrive, lead, and contribute to the vibrant tapestry of our global community. Thank you all for joining us for this meaningful dialogue. This is where we wrap up today's edition of Up You with EZINNE. It's been another amazing one. Please follow us on all our social media platforms at Up You with EZINNE and put on your notifications. Get copies of our books and don't forget to be a part of our community. Let's continue the conversations offline as well. Big up to everyone that is involved in creating this magic every week, starting with you, our dear listeners, our guests, and the amazing Up You team. Until next time, empower, uplift, and recalibrate for a better world. My name is EZINNE Kanem, and it's Up You. Bye, everyone.